want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
And we're sideways. What's going on there, Kirk?
I don't know, man. I'm all over the place, dude. Just don't pay me no attention, man. Don't pay me no mind. You know what I was doing? I was hitting share on my phone. That's what I was doing. Because, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Boom.
And caveat tonight, I know this is a trigger alert. I know if you read the title, you probably
Trigger alert.
What are these fools talking about? Well, we'll let you know. We are pro-women. We love the females. And that's actually why we're doing this episode. Yeah. Some of y'all have been sold a bill of goods.
Yeah, no doubt, man. The absolute trigger alert today. Because we going at it. Uh-huh. You know, I the older I get, the more I kind of get into the things that I'm for or against, I guess you could say, or oppose, or whatever you want to call it.
The more opinionated you get.
Right, the more crotchety and opinionated I get, basically. I'm kind of in the space, man. I'm really getting more and more against modern feminism. Uh-huh. Period.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for anybody.
Well, and that's the thing. I think it started out well. I think there was a reason it started, you know, and it made sense. And I do think they could have used more femininity in the movement, but of course, since they were fighting against what they consider the patriarchy, then they're using more than masculine energy. But that has still continued, and not only continued, it has grown.
Yeah. So what's the topic today, man? What's the topic?
So the topic, since in case y'all have been living in a rock and hadn't seen what's going on, we're talking pro-feminine, anti-feminist.
Pro-feminine, anti-feminist.
It sounds like an oxymoron, but it's really not.
Are they the same or are they different?
Well, I did a little bit of research.
Research.
Research crowd.
You get your PhD.
Yeah, I got my pretty hot and tempting.
Sure. Yeah, no.
But it was interesting because some of the comments I got from ladies even were skewed. They were just all over the place.
Really?
One said that feminine was a social construct.
Feminine was?
Feminine was. And then that femininity was, or feminist was like an attitude or something. But what I came with, majority of them, and we even asked our dates the other night, like, what do you think? And the majority of the answers came back, feminine is a natural energy. It's the energy of the female. It's their natural beingness. It's their femininity. And feminist is an ideology and an attitude. And I think one of the funniest comments I got when I put that out there was I've never met a feminine feminist.
You know what? I was actually just thinking about that yesterday. Matter of fact, I was thinking about the fact that, the two kind of don't really go hand in hand most of the time, because I think maybe feminism, especially modern feminism, that has gotten, I think, way off track. That is fight. That's like a battle. That's like a go take dude. And all of that is masculine stuff, man. And it's really hard to have a feminine energy when you do masculine stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why we want to talk about this, because we talked to so many ladies who were middle years and in that kind of feminist mindset who can't find a man, who are struggling in their later years to find a relationship. And it's because you're in your masculine. If you have a feminist ideology, by kind of definition almost, you're in your masculine, because it's all about fight and do and conquer and be the boss and all those things. Well, those are masculine traits. And what most men, especially masculine men, enjoy are feminine women who are loving, sensitive, appreciative, can be submissive, but also on the same team, are there to be supportive. And none of those characteristics describe most of the feminists who run it today.
Right. I think, besides, it's almost like if you are in the hardcore modern feminist side of things, this is the conversations I have kind of thing. I hear the same things over and over again. Either you're single and you can't find a man, or you keep ending up with what you call beta men. Mm-hmm. And the two are really the same thing. You can't find a masculine man. maybe, just maybe, the reason you can't find a masculine man is because you are one.
Mm.
Maybe, just maybe, you've become what you hate, which is toxic masculinity.
Yeah. And that's what we wanted to do this episode about. So we usually don't try to go anti anything,
No.
be pro things,
Yeah.
but because this is such a modern topic that is kind of so in our face nowadays, we wanted to put some words to it, put some emphasis on it, because being a feminine woman will attract you a masculine man. And that's why we put the caveat up front. We are pro women. That's why we do a lot of the work we do and say a lot of things we say, because we are trying to help a lot of ladies out there, and you're being fed a bill of goods. And that bill of goods is go for your career first. You don't need no man. Be the boss, babe, and basically be in your masculine all day. But then that's not going to attract you the man you want. And we keep seeing it. How evidence, or it may not be pretty, but it's there. What are your results? Often harsh, but always fair. What are the results you're getting? And if you are a feminist mindset woman and you're having trouble finding a relationship to stick, just something to think about. Are you taking ownership of your results?
Yeah, when you find a masculine man, it ends up being less work for you. The feminine woman always has less work than the masculine woman. And I have not had a conversation yet with a woman who says, I love having more work to do. I've yet to have that conversation. Maybe you have, maybe you know some people, I don't know. I've yet to meet a woman who we had a one-on-one conversation who says, man, I really want one more thing to do. I really want one more piece of work to do. Now, there are women who are in their professional space and they're good at what they do and they enjoy their jobs, their careers, and they want to, they get into that, and that's not what I'm talking about. You know the difference, especially if you're a lady and I'm talking about work. The last thing you want is work. One more thing to carry, one more thing to do, one more thing to have to make happen, one more door to open, one more thing to make come together. I've yet to have a conversation with a single woman that says, I want more of that. As a matter of fact, she's turned off, quite honestly, by men who present in a way that provide her more work. So if a guy is needy, or if a guy, just demands more of her and all these other kind of things, those are things that generally turn off women. And so, when you find yourself in the masculinated space as a woman, then it ends up being more work for you. And again, this is why we're pro women, because we want you to be in the place that you're most happy, that you're most fulfilled, that you get everything out of life that you want. And when you get off into that space, when you start drinking that kind of Kool-Aid, then it's never going to end up where you want it to end up. Sounds great, but it ain't going to end up where you want it to end up.
Yeah, we got to go back to the fact that you need polarity. You need masculine and feminine energy polarity for sexual attraction and for relationships to work out. So if you're in a female body, following the feminist narrative, and you're in your masculine energy all day, then the only one that's opposite you that can match you in that polarity is a feminine man. Or so basically a beta male, a nice guy, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times those are the ones who will be more work for you. They'll be the ones who need a paycheck, they need an allowance, and they need mama to take care of all the chores and things, and so they can sit in the basement and play their video games or whatever. And it may be why you're not running into the masculine that you want. And for a lot of you ladies who've been in the feminist kind of narrative or in that mindset for a long time, I need to remind you some of the qualities of a feminine woman. It's nurturing, sensitive, sweetness, supportiveness, gentleness, warmth, passivity, cooperativeness, expressiveness, modesty. How many feminists are modest? Humility. How many feminists that are humility? Anyway, empathy, affection, tenderness, being emotionally kind, helpful, devoted to her family, understanding. And these are just some of the stereotypical characteristics of a feminine woman. And I guarantee you, of all those things I just listed, none of them are masculine. Yeah. And those are all the things masculine men want in a relationship, in a woman.
Absolutely. And, when you bring masculine, you're either going to repel masculine or you're going to engage, meaning fight masculine. Like you're looking for confrontation or you're looking for avoidance. One of the two is going to happen. And it really depends on kind of in what space or setting you come to that guy in. And so the whole, the whole notion behind, the whole notion behind first of all, the fact that we are pro women in this whole conversation really comes down to, really comes down to what do you really want, and helping you get to and achieve all of the things that you want to and achieve in all of the ways that you want to in life. Do you really want that? Because you are being sold a bill of goods. You are being sold that you have to do everything. Girl, you got to do everything. You got to. Then that breeds into, well, I don't need no man because I got to do everything. I got to do everything. And I don't need no man. And then it's like, well, now I don't want a man because I got to do everything I got to do. Well, who told you had to do everything in the first place? Somebody that's trying to monetize you. Somebody that needs you in the workforce. Somebody that needs you out there spending money, because y'all spend money way more than men do. And so, I mean, they need to monetize you. They need you buying products and goods and all these other kind of things. So they need you out there doing all that kind of stuff. And that's the reason why you get sold all these things. And none of those people have your best interest in mind. They're looking to gain something from you when they want to sell you the full on modern feminism movement. Yeah.
Well, that's what I think you were just talking about. I don't need no man. And every masculine man in his relationship wants to feel needed. He wants to feel needed and respected. And so if all you're saying is...
Now somebody's saying, it goes both ways. Anyhow. Well, yeah, don't get me started.
I don't want to hear about that right now. We're talking about right now.
Exactly.
But if a man hears, I don't need no man, I'm independent, I pay my own bills, I'm this and that. Well, he automatically just puts two and two together and goes, oh, well, she doesn't need me. So there's nothing for me to do there, so why would I bother? And so a lot of you ladies who are business owners and in the kind of feminist movement and in that masculine mindset, you're wondering where are all the good men at? Well, they saw you and realized you didn't need them. They didn't see any place for them in your life or in that relationship, so they bounced. They moved on. They're looking for somebody who looks like they actually need a man or actually wants to need a man. And that's a huge, almost no-no now. It's like anti-PC now. It's not politically correct for you to be a woman and need or want a man, which is sad.
All of the good men are in your rearview mirror because you drove right by them, because you're just driving in life. You just driving. You just driving and driving and driving, doing 80 miles an hour, in a 45 zone, talking about you can't find no good men. Well, you didn't zoom right past them all, and they all in your rearview mirror, or you ran them over, or you cut them off road rage or whatever it is, man. But they're all in your rearview mirror, and maybe, I think there's some that are too far gone. I think there's some that have staked their claim on modern feminism, and now they're just too far gone. They can't get it back, because then they got to go back to all of their friends and say, you know what? I don't know if I necessarily believe in all that. But, hey, I know what we should believe in.
I think we should believe in a break.
Let's believe in a break, man. Let's believe in a break. Mad Men and Masculinity, KLBC, 1220 AM on the radio dial in the Mile High City and on the interwebs everywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay. Love you. Bye-bye.
That was it.
Stop, Control S. Got it. Okay.
He's out. Super douchey, Nikki Nicole doing her thing, doing her thug thizzle back there.
Oh, yeah, we didn't get to hear Nikki.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
We gotta put some headsets on that other mic. We got to put some headphones on that microphone right there.
So anyway, she was talking to us, Thomas, because she's got her bounce, so we got to stop recording.
Anyway. So we got no supervision. Oh man, it's on there. She was the only hope y'all had. You know what I'm saying? She was the only hope y'all had. Oh, hey, we got no supervision.
I got my body armor with caffeine and electrolytes.
Dude,
so,
I got my man nectar. My man nectar.
I still like that.
Body armor. Hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is, baby. You ain't gotta like it. You just gotta accept it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you do it. All right.
Is that how you talk to your dates? I see how it is.
Easy. When we're on a date, no, but yeah. Anyhow.
And we're back. Mad Men Masculinity.
Guess who's back? Back again.
City.
We back. We back.
We back again.
We back. And you still here. We back. We back. We back. Have we made you mad yet? Have we made you mad yet?
Well, if not, just give us a moment.
Yeah, give us a minute. We got no supervision. We just talking about that. The super producer Nikki Nicole had to step out.
Producer had to go do something.
She was the only one that told us don't say that. She's the only one that held the mute button. Uh-oh, we in trouble. We got no mute button around. We got no cough button around here in the studio. So we might say something. You know, don't call us. We'll call you. If you're mad, we'll call you. Don't call us. Anyhow, talking about modern feminism. What is it? Feminist or what's our official term?
I mean, I was
the comparison, feminism and yeah.
But I said pro-feminine, anti-feminist.
Now, what I do think that, like a lot of things, I think the feminist movement started off with good intentions. Personally,
Yeah, no,
I think, you know, however many, a generation and a half ago, maybe, I don't know. I think, you know, there was the whole idea of, you know, women having more rights and women having, you know, more equality in terms of, you know, in terms of rights and value and all those kinds of things. And so, I mean, that is absolutely, I mean, I got 3 daughters. I mean, I got a mom, I got a woman in my life. I mean, I value women tremendously. I'm not one of those guys that put women down. I'm not a pillar, you know, a red pillar. I'm not, you know, I won't even allow that to happen kind of in my space of just people putting women down. I just don't believe in that. We don't need to put anybody down. If you have a whole bunch of bad experience, especially like in a dating scenario, if you got a whole bunch of bad experience with women, it's probably not women, it's probably you. And so from a guy perspective, this ain't about putting women down at absolutely all. So I think it started off well, but I think when corporate interests kind of got involved in a lot of things, that's when I think it kind of took a turn to the left and it got a little bit off track, just with the whole idea of feminism versus modern feminism. I think I'm a feminist. I'm absolutely opposed vehemently against modern feminism.
Well, I mean, yeah, to your point, it started off as march for rights, those voting rights, those suffragettes, and then it got into work rights. And I mean, it was like the late 60s, early 70s before a woman could have a bank account or a credit card without her husband's signature or co-signing.
Not cool.
That's crazy.
Right.
So we're all for the equality of rights. Now, what's interesting is one of the questions I've heard, which makes a lot of sense, is so if you're out there watching us and you're upset because you have a feminist mindset, ask yourself, what rights do men have nowadays in the U.S. that women do not? And think about it. Because honestly, there aren't any.
Yeah.
So what are you fighting for? And what has happened is you've been sold this bill of goods of you need to put your career first, don't worry about a family, go make your money and go do all those things. And then what ends up happening is, you know, they didn't tell you the other side of that story. Like, okay, yeah, go do those things, that's great. But the consequences of that is that now you have spent your years that you would normally be finding a husband and starting a family, doing all that stuff out in the workforce. And then once you hit the wall after 35-ish, 35 to 40, now all of a sudden your prospects have dried up and there aren't any guys out there who are wanting you in the state that you are now or very few.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things that we want to have these conversations because we see you being sold this bill of goods. And I get it, they get into your emotions and you're very emotional beings. And so you're like, rah, rah, go girl, but they're not seeing the big picture. And then I see a lot of these ladies in victim mindset. Well, my life's not going the way I wanted to, but it's not my fault. It's patriarchy's fault. It's not my fault. It's these men's fault. It's not my fault. It's X, Y, and Z. But you got to take responsibility of your results. And if your results aren't what you want, maybe you can look in the mirror and go, okay, which lie did I buy into? And what am I afraid of letting go of?
Yeah, because ultimately, you know, you spend those 15, 20 years, you know, out there producing and getting yours and all those kinds of things, you know, and then what happens is once you get older, then you realize, okay, well, wait a minute. At my core, I want relationship. In my core, I want connection. I'm a relative. I'm a relational being. And so then, by then, you know, in your mind, you have I have 20-year-old expectations, but I have a 40-something-year-old circumstance. And you ain't going to get, you know, there's nothing, you know, there's no case where you get something that's 20 years past its prime at the cost of, or at the value of what it would have been in its prime. So then you get guys that are kind of, you know, guys that are on the opposite end of the pendulum where, we are, when we get into our 40s, shout out to the other KS, rest in peace. Actually, he talked about, women are the most at their prime, the most happiest in their 20s. Men kind of once they hit 40, and so the two lines converge. And once we kind of get up into that space, we ain't putting up with a whole lot of mess. We're looking for different things at that point that you may or may not, and probably not ready to actually give or have or be available.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's why the majority of our audience are you ladies. 65% of our audience documented are females. I won't put your ages out there because I'm a gentleman.
Yeah,
but
that's debatable.
Don't be truthful.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's why we do this. We started this podcast. We started this radio show is to talk about these things that are uncomfortable. That truth hurts. They're not. It's not nice, and it's not all Disney candy floss and all that stuff. But these are things you need to think about, because what was sold to a lot of feminists is that follow the masculine narrative, go do, be, have, and then you'll have the same results. But they neglect to tell you that, like Kurt just said, we're on different timelines. Men, our value increases as we age. We start off as a bag of poo in our teenage years, and then slowly turn it into a garden as we get into our 30s and 40s if we're lucky. And it's completely opposite for most ladies. You're at the height of your femininity between 18 and 25. That's when you're at the height of your femininity. You're the most fertile. You're the most energetic. You're the most feminine that you're ever going to be. That's why most men, whether I want to be honest with you or not, are attracted to women between 18 and 25, because they're at the height of their femininity. But then there is that drop off, and it's documented. I'm not making it up. I know you don't like to hear it, but that's just the way it is. But because you were sold this idea that go out and be a man, basically, and wear a dress, be a man, go do all the masculine things. Oh. But then they like to tell you that there is a shelf life, there is a wall, and a lot of ladies are hitting it now, and they're feeling like they've been, sold a bill of goods, been taken advantage of, been manipulated, because now what they really realize they want is relationship and family. It's harder and harder to find, because men who are successful and do those things have they have options. As we get older, we have more options, and our desires change.
Yeah, I'm looking up something on JBK's phone, and him the phone to unlock. He's got some little dot code on there. Anyhow, one of the things that is presented, and I was thinking about this earlier, man. A couple of things I was thinking about earlier today is we're getting to the point now. If we're not there, we're really close to being there. Where I think there's kind of a level of gender narcissism. Where modern femininity has gotten to the point where the complete expectation is for women to be absolutely celebrated, for it to be just about us, about me, about self. I'm gonna get mine, and make sure you find somebody that does this for you, and there's this and that. And I looked up the definition of narcissism is personality qualities include thinking very highly of oneself, needing admiration, believing others are inferior, and lacking empathy for others. And the parts that stuck out to me when I read that, I was like, okay, thinking highly of oneself, great self-esteem, that's great. When you get to the point of needing admiration, and I look at just kind of I look at the social media aspect of women, and it's like I am this, and I'm great, I'm amazing, and you go, girl. Women will post a picture of themselves just to have a bunch of other women and men to tell them how great they look and all that. It's just fishing for the admiration, and then believing others are inferior, lacking empathy from others. I mean, believing others are inferior. I think, like I said, if we're not there, we're getting to the point where masculinity is expected to be inferior to femininity. Like the value of it is less than. In other words, like, women are the end all be all of everything, and the world doesn't spin without women and all that other kind of stuff, when none of us would be here if it wasn't for a man, at least partly anyway. And so the inferiority, and then absolutely the lack of empathy. If you post something about a man, if you post a comment, if you post a meme or something like that saying, a man needs this or a man loves that, guarantee, or maybe it just happens to me, but I guarantee you at some point there's going to be a woman that comments and says, us too, or it goes both ways, or, don't look at, let's not talk about what men need. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about what I need. Let's talk about meeting my needs. And it just becomes a pattern. So if we're not there yet, we're getting really close to gender narcissism.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed the most when it comes to feminine versus, the feminine energy, the natural feminine energy versus the feminist kind of mindset is that one of the biggest qualities of natural feminine energy is inclusiveness. And we do not see any inclusiveness in the feminist narrative because it's all about their narrative. Anything that doesn't that goes against that or doesn't, jive with it is thrown out or talked down or sign language, shamed, insulted, gaslighted, or need to be right. But inclusiveness, and that's one of the things that needs to be brought back to the forefront for both men and women. We need to include each other in these talks. We need to include each other in the discussions, because a lot of times, ladies, if you had a strong man in your life, he would not allow you or not let you. I would say allow because that goes into that whole submissive thing that y'all hate, but would not let you. He would talk you out of going down that feminist narrative line and becoming hyper masculine and becoming, this person that no man wants. He would talk you out of that because he can see that. We're logical linear thinkers. We don't necessarily, we get in our emotions sometimes, but much less. And so we'll see the forest for the trees, as it were. And that's, we both need each other. Men need the ladies for so many things. The inclusiveness, the nurturing, the supportiveness, the femininity. We need you to be our rocks and be that supportiveness in our lives. But you also need us to be that boundaries and be the kind of logical linear thinkers who go, I don't know, honey, that might be a little too far. Let's not take that bag out in South Chicago.
Yeah. When inclusion, meaning us, is people that look like me or look like us, that's not inclusion, right? When inclusion just means our circle, making sure we're okay and we're good and we're gonna have our thing, and I'm just seeing, I'm seeing the pattern, I'm seeing the trend go where it's just acceptable and it's just okay. It's okay to have, just conferences, just TED conferences that are all women. Like, this is just a women's conference, and this is just a men's conference. And so there's a lot of these things that become double standards, and the double standard is a double standard in itself, where it goes both ways, but not really. It goes both ways when it's convenient, but not when it's not. It goes both ways. I want equality, but I don't want equity, right? It goes both ways, but when I go out on the first date, I'm expecting you to pay. I want equality, but when this ship is going down, you better not be in the life raft. I want equality, but when bullets start flying, you better jump in the way and you better go make sure I don't get hit. And so, it's like, and again, I believe that some of those are masculine spaces to be in. But if you don't want that smoke, then don't get into masculine at all. Don't get in the masculine pool if you don't want to, splash around in masculine water and be completely immersed in masculinity.
You know what I think it's time for?
Break!
Pool break.
Boom, pool break. Every pool needs a break.
Everybody out of the pool.
I wonder why they do them pool breaks.
Get everybody out of the pool.
Just because they need a break.
You ate before an hour
for
or
real.
whatever. Get in and get a cramp. They don't want to save you.
We'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity, 12:20 a.m. on the radio dial. Kat texted earlier and said she couldn't hear.
What?
On, I assume on Facebook or something.
Uh-oh.
Hey, if you're listening to this, by the way, comment, put a little comment in the chat here. Definitely if there's anything technical, like if you can't hear or signals, whatever, let us know. Give us that feedback. But for sure, type in a little comment. And if it's something relevant to the convo, did the light just go out behind me?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's motion activated, probably. Yeah, I gotcha. Boom.
They knew we was in here by ourselves. They're like locking us in.
They're locking us in. We can't get out.
Yeah.
Boom.
There was something that was on my mind a minute ago. That I wanted to deep into the pool.
She said it was just quiet for a little over a minute. Probably because we were sitting here just.
Maybe true. Sometimes it takes like a little going down, naturally. So of course it could be some of the Wi-Fi.
She says you're good now. I was on Facebook. Boom. Nice. All right. And we're back.
We back. I had my man.
Yeah. You had the man nectar.
And the man nectar.
All right, now I got to drink some man nectar.
It's good for
I'm going to
you,
drink my man nectar. Who owns Body Armor? Is that the one 50 Cent owns?
No, it's Coca-Cola.
But didn't somebody own it and they bought it? Or?
No, that was vitamin water.
Oh, okay. Man nectar, Body Armor. Holla at us. Holla at your boys. Holla at your boys. Holla at your boys.
Speaking of holla at boys, we're talking pro-feminine, anti-feminist today, tonight. This whole episode. So, yeah, I appreciate that you were tuning in, you're listening with an open mind, and you're taking in what we're saying, because we are pro-women. The reason we're doing this episode is because we do believe that a lot of ladies have been sold a bill of goods, and now it's become the popular culture to be feminist and be boss babe and all those things. But they didn't tell you that you didn't read the fine print. They give you the legalese saying, well, you can't do those things, but the results are you're going to be less attractive to masculine men. You may spend your entire fertile years. I don't say furtive, that's the wrong word. Fertile years in the corporate America, chasing your work life and missing out on family life.
They didn't tell you that it was more work.
Yeah.
That's the part they didn't tell you. They didn't tell you the more work, but guess what? That's masculinity. And so the modern feminism is really toxic masculinity. I mean, with a dress on, it really is. And you end up bitter. You end up lonely. You end up, you can't get a man, let alone keep a man. So then your kids end up being your primary relationship, because those are the only ones that you can keep a relationship with most of the time. And so, you end up sinking all of your relational chips into your kids. The problem is kids grow up most of the time and leave, right? And they trip sometimes, right? So, I mean, but the fine print, I think, is that they didn't tell you to be more work. Mm-hmm. They just didn't tell you that, and now you done bought into it, and unfortunately, a lot of women are kind of stuck with it now. It's like picking up the pit bull by the ears. Now what do you do it?
Well, I mean, let's just dig into it. I mean, this is Mad Men Masculinity. We are a home for healthy masculinity, a man-centric show, but we do have a large audience of women. And so let's talk about the differences, because this is what is the biggest issue nowadays, is that the feminist narrative is there are no differences. I'm sorry, there are differences.
Big differences.
Different. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're like, I don't need no man, fine. Go move out in the woods, chop down your trees, build your own log cabin, grow your own food, because 98% of most of the infrastructure jobs, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, construction, road workers, all these different things, those are 98% men are in those fields. And so when you say, I don't need no man in my life, I can do it on my own, I can make my own money, well, you're not thinking bigger picture. Because bigger picture is we are a whole society that is incumbent upon all of us working together, which means we as men can't do this without the ladies, because we can't have children. We don't know how to make a home. Most of us would live in a tent out back and be just happy, because we don't think about making a home, making it nice. We don't think about all the niceties of including people and having family and all these things. Just do the guy thing. We hang out with dudes, go out in the woods, whatever. So it's one of these things where you're being sold a bill of goods that you don't need a man. Well, maybe you don't need a man in a relationship, but we need each other in society. And to say, I don't need no man, I can have kids by myself, where do you think that came from? Some guy donated that.
And, the fact that you are a woman, thank your father. I mean, it was that chromosome that he implanted through his seed that became a female, right? So, when you go down the road of I don't need a man, first of all, does that mean you don't need your brother? Does that mean you don't need your son? Because your brother is probably a man or will be a man. Your son ultimately will be a man. And so what happens when you have all of that pent up anger and resentment and I don't need, then all of a sudden when you're looking up at your son and he's looking down at you and you're looking up at that thing that you hate that you become, and he's looking down at you and seeing that toxicity, when y'all heads start to butt, then guess what? And so, when you get too far off into that space, into that realm, especially when you get to the point of, I don't need no man, well, then you're asking for just kind of a world of issues, a world of problems. You're ignoring a lot of things you have in life. Who built that workplace that you're working in? Literally, I don't see a whole lot of women hanging off of skyscrapers welding. And et cetera, et cetera. And so you can't discount the fact that men are necessary, that men are important, that you need men to help make your world go round. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah, and if that's your motto, I don't need a man. Well, good, because you're not going to get one. At least you're not going to get one you want. Because there's no man of value, of purpose, and who has self-awareness that's going to put up with a woman who's got more masculinity, who's got more brusqueness and argumentativeness. I mean, especially as we get into past our 30s and into our 40s and 50s, we're looking for supportiveness and peace and nurturing. We want those feminine traits. And if you've forgotten those feminine traits, if you don't know how to be that anymore, you're not going to find a man like that. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't need a man, well, guess what? You ain't going to get one.
I think, I almost wonder if, all the things that we come to know as toxic masculinity, I wonder if toxic femininity is essentially the inability to maintain healthy relationships. I mean, women in the most feminine are relational beings, right? And so if you're anti that, then that means that you don't value, you don't want, and you can't maintain basic healthy relationships. And so I wonder if that's the opposite of, or that is toxic femininity. I have no idea, but I don't know. Maybe I should type that up somewhere, and you can search it on Google. Then somebody will research it and say, "Hey, this guy said that."
I looked it up and I found an article, but I didn't have time to read it. But it was they were trying to do positive things and then slipping in the toxic things. But really, in any, whether there's masculine or feminine, toxicity is usually being exclusive, being, having lack of empathy for the other person, thinking you don't need them or they're less than, just like the narcissist thing, where you think that it's their problem, they're less than, you're the only one that's right. So basically, you're not open to somebody else's opinion. You're not open to anything outside your viewpoint. And if you're a man or a woman and you have those traits, you're toxic.
Ladies,
you gotta understand, like, seriously. I mean, if anything, maybe I'm kind of jumping to the end, because I mean, this is kind of where my heart really rests in this whole thing. Ladies, at some point, I hope that in mass, you all realize that you're being sold a bill of goods. And with this whole extreme, this modern feminism, just the gruff, just we can do it without men, and we don't need men, we don't need relationships, and we just need a sperm donor, and just if we want to have kids. I hope you see that, man, you're being sold as a group a bill of goods where you're being monetized. I mean, you're being sold something that people are benefiting off of, that people are there's industry that's benefiting off of this quote unquote movement. And it is not, I mean, as a culture, as a society, we are worse off than we were when we had less, when there was more turmoil, when there was times of war, and when there was civil unrest and civil rights movements. And there was so many things going on in our culture. Family-wise, we're worse now. Relationally, we're worse now than we were back then. And absolutely do men have a whole lot of ground to gain. I think men, from what I've seen anyway, have begun to do, and have for some period of time been doing more inside work, bettering ourselves individually and collectively, but doing more of the inside under the hood kind of stuff. And so I think men are actually kind of getting a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of relationships. Men want relationships. Men don't end relationships commonly. 80+% of the time, it's the woman that ends a relationship. It's the woman that files for a divorce. So men want that. And so if you think that men don't, that's because you're finding the booty chasers that are just going after the consumption of you. You're not noticing or recognizing the good men. And so absolutely do men have work. I think men have been doing work. Men have been meeting in mass and having groups, not just groups to support each other business-wise or just to, pat each other on the back and say how great we are. Men have been meeting and doing the deep, heavy heart work of, like, how can we become better, not how great we are. And I think, man, women, I think y'all are behind in that. I think y'all are behind in that, looking in the mirror, taking an honest assessment and saying, how can I become better for somebody else, to serve somebody else in a better way?
Yeah, you've been sold this masculinized, patriarchal bill of goods that this is what you have to do to be successful as a woman. And you had it right, ladies. You were inclusive, you were nurturing, you held the family together. Nobody messes with grandma because she was the matriarch. Like, you held the family together. Now you've been sold this bill of goods.
Now grandma at the club.
Yeah, grandma at the club looking for
Twerking.
next dude.
Grandma got OnlyFans.
But yeah, you had it right, and we had it wrong. And I guess this is how change happens. Things need to be torn apart before they come back together. But we're not telling you that you have to do anything extra or special. We're just asking, be the feminine woman that you were, and allow us to be the masculine men that we can support each other. Because every masculine man, part of his beingness is to be a provider and protector of a feminine woman. And when you're in your masculine doing the feminine thing, I mean, I hear it nowadays, it's hard, you gotta both work. But that doesn't mean you both gotta be in your masculine all the time. And if you get the right kind of guy, he will make sure, like, you get home, like, all right, baby, it's time to switch. Let's get back. Let's take our roles. I'm the masculine, you're the feminine. Let's do that. And you'll be happier, you'll be healthier, you'll have less work. That's all we hear from all of our boss babes is how busy they are, how much work they got to do, how everything's on their shoulders. But they don't need no man. They don't want no man because a man is more work, quote unquote. But maybe the guys you're hanging out with, but the guys I know, they will make your life much easier because if you allow them and show them that you need them, they will bend over backwards and do what they can. They'll die for you if you're a feminine woman who shows them that you need them.
Maybe, just maybe, there's so much work, and maybe, just maybe, you can't find a man to help relieve some of that load because you won't put down that load. You know, at some point, you got to put down the piano in order for somebody else to pick it up. I mean, if a gentleman shows up, he's not going to force his way into anything. And if you got it, and if you don't need nothing, if you don't need him, and I got this. Okay, cool. You know, let me know how that works for you. Meanwhile, you know, she over there, you know, she is kind of open to the fact that, you know, having a man in her life, not just to take out the trash, but to carry some of the emotional burden of life, some of the heavy-hearted weight in life, you know, the things that you're going through when you're going through, you know, the emotional ups and downs and the health issues, when you're going through perimenopause and menopause and your hormones or whatever, somebody to just hold space, somebody to just remind you it's going to be okay when kids are tripping and all those other kind of things, when you're going through that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, but you got to be willing to put some of that stuff down. You got to be willing to stop being masculine if you want masculine to show up in your life and in your space.
Yeah, and if you don't think that what we're talking about has any merit, let's talk about the insanity of the fact that part of this feminist movement that's been going on is the fact that a gentleman can no longer hold a door open for a woman he doesn't know without the fear of her saying, I don't need you to do that for me. Why? You're disrespecting me by you know, belittling me and saying I can't open the door for myself. I was being a conscientious, gentlemanly human being. Just I would have done it for the dude behind you, or would have done it for anybody else. Why is this an issue? But it just seems like so many. It's kind of a banner statement. It's not happy. It's not a popular statement, but it seems like a lot of people that identify as feminists are just looking to be offended. You're just looking for the next thing to be offended, the next thing to try to cancel somebody on. And it has nothing to do with healthy relationships or healthy communication or being a good human being. It's just a power trip.
You know, when I walked into this building here today, there was actually 2 men that held the door for me, man. And I thank you, man. I appreciate that, sir. You know, appreciate that, my man. And both of them were like, yeah, no problem. You know, it wasn't because, I had some stuff with me, not because I couldn't do it, but because they were coming out, I was coming in, and they just held the door for me. I mean, and I think, you know, good men are all around and good men will do those things, but you got to be willing to allow. Now, if that guy would open the door, I'd be like, no, I got it. He'd have probably said, all right, jerk, and fine, you do it next time then, you sucker. You know, but he didn't. And so, you know, there are plenty of guys out there that are ready to do that thing, man. You ready to do this thing? Let's take our last break. Last break. Mad Men of Masculinity, 12:20 a.m. on the radio dial in the Mile High City and on the interwebs everywhere. We'll be right back. Yeah, boy. Huh?
What do you want to look up?
That I did, that narcissist thing. Yeah, that was it. So what I'm doing here, I'm hitting mute every time you talk.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's echoing from mine into yours.
Well, no, I didn't use the lavalier this time.
Yeah.
I think it was my lavalier that was echoing so bad.
Well, she said it was echoing. She said you were echoing earlier.
That must see.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
I can't see. We're still trying to figure it out. This technology.
Perimenopause, you know it.
That's the problem. We're trying to do two things at once. We're trying to do a radio show and podcast.
Everything, man. Everything.
The analog is
it ain't digital. You got that right. That's a story of life. Boom. Are you ready to crush this thing?
Let's do that.
All right.
And we're back.
We are back.
It's them Batman again.
They here. The men at the door, mama. The men at the door with that thing. The men at the door. Mama. Man.
We're here for that final, the final quarter.
Coming down the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. It's the Madmen of Masculinity, baby. KLDC 1220 on the AM dial in the Mile High City on the interwebs everywhere. Shout out Crawford Broadcasting.
Thank you for letting us in the door again.
Thank you for not locking us, even though we're kind of locked in. The lights went out back there. Thank you, super producer Nikki Nicole. She is dope. Thank you all of our crew around here. Rachel Maines, Corner Cafe, Jamie Daniel. Man, I'm telling you. I mean, we got a whole grip of gang around here, man. John Rush right across the corner, man. Man, if you don't know about John Rush, man, he is a beast up in these streets, man. You know, Google John Rush. You know, check him out. You know, search that thing. Homeboy don't play, man. You think we don't play? Homeboy don't play, man. For real. Homeboy don't.
We're the nice PC version of Mr.
For real. John Rush. It's emotional damage. John Rush don't play. Emotional damage over there.
So we were talking about pro-feminine, anti-feminist.
Yes.
I think we've been digging into this, and I think you see the point. I mean, we'll say it again every break. We are pro-women. We are pro-feminine women, and that's why we're doing this, because we continue to see a lot of ladies who are unhappy, and I think it's because mainly they have moved so far away from their natural feminine energy, and they've been sold this bill of goods, and it's been bandwagon where you go, girl, you be a boss, babe, you go get your career. Well, fine, go get your career. Just know that there's a finite amount of time for most women. Now, I see all the time the exception. The exception is not the rule. Just because so-and-so got married in her 40s or 50s and had kids and and that worked out, doesn't mean it's going to work out for you. At some point, we all have to look in the mirror and go, I'm a human being, and there are certain things that kind of go categorized-wise for men and women. And you have to look at those and go, okay, well, maybe I fit in that category too. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but guess what? That's just the way it is. And we would like to support you ladies to be more feminine, because the more in your feminine you are, the more masculine energy you will attract. But if you're in your masculine, then you repel. Remember, it's just like the magnet or the magnet analogy. The two positive sides repel each other. Two negative sides repel each other. You need the positive and negative to attract each other. So if you're in your masculine energy, you're going to repel masculine energy. If you're in your feminine energy, you're going to attract that masculine energy that you're wanting.
I'm telling you, y'all are being sold a bill of goods. You are modern feminism. I mean, modern feminists are selling you a bill of goods, and there is a machine behind it. It's a very similar, I think, parallel to the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it was, obviously a pro statement, but then we come to find out that it was being monetized, the whole thing, and the people behind it, buying mansions and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, ladies, there's a modern feminism movement that's a machine behind the scenes that's monetizing you, so that you go out there, that you produce more money, that you do more stuff on your own, so that you have more stress, so that you have more health issues, so that you go out and get more needles stuck in your forehead so you have a smooth forehead. I ain't never heard a guy say, look how fine she is because of her smooth forehead. That ain't never happened before. But I'm telling you, you're being monetized, and it's a sham to break down the family structure, to break down the relational structure, so that there's more of us out there spending our individual paychecks and our individual livelihoods, buying more houses, buying more cars, buying more stuff. You go out and we can do all this, we can do all this, we can do all this. Meanwhile, come buy my product. Come to my conference. Come whatever. Come this, come that.
And it's all divide and conquer. It's the simplest thing. It's been used for thousands of years. This is how the richer get richer and the poor get poorer. It's all about divide and conquer. And now the latest is the family. And they started with the men, turning them all into nice guys, and now it's turning all these ladies into toxic men. If you want to just take a moment and realize your power, women, If you all stopped buying any kind of cosmetic for 7 days, the entire industry would collapse.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of power you have, but you're being manipulated to continue buying things you don't need. 3-inch nails that look like claws. You got these big old fake eyelashes that no guy really wants. They look like a transvestite or whatever. And it's just, it's sad and kind of comical that, you know, a lot of us guys just kind of scratch our head and go, okay, well, this is what we got to deal with now. But those aren't coming from us. Those ideas, those influences are coming from us. It's big business influencing you. I mean, ladies, you are 78% of the buying public. You make 78% of the purchases out there. So you don't think that there's some interest in big business to manipulate you and to give you some rabbit to chase after, some sort of the next carrot, the next thing? You got to have your feet on the ground and be grounded and go, is this better for me? Is this really working for me? And take, you know, I see a lot of ladies who just do not take a look in the mirror. Well, they look in the mirror all the time, but they don't take that healthy look in the mirror and go, is this really good for me? Yeah. They just kind of follow that emotional bandwagon, as it were, and go, okay, well, this feels good, so I'm going to go that way. Well, guess what? Candy gives you cavities. It can't all feel good. At some point, you got to go, you know what? I need a little bit of self-control. And sometimes having a masculine man in your life will help you with self-control. Because I know if we had more feminine women in our lives, we'd probably be better at self-control too, because we'd have somebody to be serving and to working for and to providing for and protecting, than just being on our own going, well, I don't know what else to do. Let me go do something else crazy just to give myself a adrenaline high or something like that. You know, we need each other. Yeah. And we're being divided. We're being conquered by the powers that be in the financial industry and then the big business industries.
Maybe, just maybe, you're spending a lot of time looking in the mirror, but not a lot of time looking into self. You know, because it's really easy to work on the mirror, what you see in the mirror. It's really difficult to do on what you see in the one in the mirror, right? And so that's the kind of thing that you know, we just saw, you know, this last weekend, we, you know, went to a comedy club. We saw a 34-year-old that looked like she had plastic surgery like a 50-year-old. And it's like, man, is that what it's coming to? Like, you know, like where do you go from there? What are you trying to keep up with? Now, I'm not against beauty. I love a pretty woman. I mean, you know, men are visual. I like that. But at some point, it's like, really? No, like that's not attractive for men. That might be attractive to other women. Look how smooth her forehead is. Look how her lips poke out. Wow, look how up and by her eyeballs her cheekbones are. I mean, that's not stuff that men don't do that, man. Maybe if you had a good guy, a good masculine man that will love you from the inside out, then he would emphasize to you that ain't important. And I don't want you to go do that. I love the lines in your face. I love the curves of your hips. You know, I love all those things. Maybe I love, you know, I love who you are from the inside out. Maybe, just maybe, if you got out of that modern feminist that focus on what you see in the mirror instead of who you see in the mirror, then maybe your life would be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and if you're struggling with relationships and you're wondering why it's so hard, and you want to have that deep love, intimate relationship, that takes time. Like, you have to go through trials and tribulations together. You have to be willing to work it out together. And part of this feminist narrative is you don't need no man and divorce him and move on to the next guy. Well, guess what? Once you've done that, it's much harder for you to move on. And that's what they don't tell you. There's very little fine print. There's no research on results. What happens when a 30-something-year-old woman divorces her husband, and then how easy is it for her to go find another man to take on her children, that responsibility, and to live happily ever after? The results aren't good. So if you want to have that loving, deep, intimate relationship, that means sticking it out with the guy you're with, the guy who is the father of your children, who has an onus and a desire to stay there and be there because you're the mother of his children. Don't just let every little emotion drag you and turn your eyes to the grass is greener pasture over there. It ain't true. It's like in China, they're doing their green thing where they paint the mountains green to make it look like it's healthy. Once you get close, it ain't what it's all cracked up to be.
Yeah, because once you go one more time around that mountain, well, guess what? Now you got more miles. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Now you got more miles. And guess what? You know, guys have a way of checking your Carfax. right? And you know, we would check the miles. We can see the miles. I mean, you can see wear and tear. You know what I'm saying? Like a good mechanic can lift up the hood. He can see, you know, he can see some wear and tear and so we can see the miles. And when your body count goes up, you know, man, it's not a, you know, I would tell people, anybody who's never been married before, I would say, or who've never been divorced before, rather, I would say spend every dime you got, sell everything you got to save your marriage. Because you're going to spend every dime you got, and you're going to lose most of what you have, probably in some way, shape, or form, in a divorce. Kind of the same thing in terms of work on what's on the inside, as opposed to trying to start over with something else on the outside. Because I'm telling you, it's a higher cost, and it's not a high return on investment. You ain't going to go on a car dealership parking lot and say, "Give me that one over there with 350,000 miles on it, and I want to make sure I pay." You know, with the person that paid for it that first bought it. That it ain't gonna happen no way.
I want to pay the premium for something that's been, you know, ran over. And that's the thing is, it's just the masculine nature. It's all about, you know, the reason men care about body count is because of our natural need to know paternity, to ensure paternity. Now, realize nowadays it's few and far between, and probably even fewer, probably closer to zero, that we ever find that. But if you want a traditional relationship, you got to be a traditional person. And that means sticking with the masculine feminine narrative and having the kind of traditional relationship. If you don't want that, that's fine, but don't expect those results.
Yeah.
That's the thing is we have this result-driven outcome, like, oh, equality of results. Well, guess what? There's no way you are ever going to have equality of results because every person only gets the results what they put into it. And this whole narrative of, oh, we want equality of results. That's communism. And you've seen how that works out. Bread lines and potato famines, all those things. So whatever you put in is what you get back. If you're not putting it in, you're not going to get it back. Sorry, hard truth, that's just the way it is.
So here's my 30-second-ish summary here, bringing this plane in for a landing. I think, you know, everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do what lions do, right? And, you know, guess what, ladies? If you want to get man's space, if you want to be lion, you know, the lionesses are the ones that go out and do the hunting. The lionesses are the ones that bring back the food. The lionesses are the ones that raise the kids. You know, the lion, you know, make sure that the pride is okay, that the territory is safe and all those other kind of things. So if you want to get into your, I want to be lion, hear me roar, all that kind of stuff, then guess what? Lions go out and hunt. Lions raise the kids. Lions make sure that the internal things are okay for the structure of the unit, for the group to work out. And so, you know, don't be sold a bill of goods that somehow, some way, this is going to work out great for you and your daughters going forward. And somehow, some way, it's also going to work out great for you and your sons going forward for generation 2. Just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, and just for my last little closing, just remember, the majority of childhood problems, people in prison, and people with mental issues out in the world today as adults came from fatherless homes. And this doesn't mean you don't need a man or you don't have to have a man or whatever. I'm not saying you have to have a man, you know, maybe he was toxic and whatnot, but the statistics don't lie. So stop being manipulated and remember that wisdom is being able to take on an opinion or some facts that may contradict what you're thinking or feeling. Just look at the results and go, hey, this feminist thing isn't healthy for me, isn't good for me, and they don't have my best interests at heart. They're just trying to manipulate me and get my money and my dollars. You may not want a man in your life, but we all need each other. And let's go back to being inclusive and together as men and women.
Holler at your boys. Let us know what you think. MadmenRadio.com. Check us out on all the socials, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Holler at us. Cuss us out if you want. We don't care. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, all those kinds of things.
Make sure you watch the whole episode before you give us feedback.
Wow. Get some baby powder. With some baby powder and with the 5 fingers say to the face. Clap. Mad Men Radio, Mad Men and Masculinity. We will holler at y'all next time. Mad Men out.